Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Zach Olson. I am on the education team here at the Iowa Center. As always, thanks for joining us today. We are really looking forward to this one. First, a little housekeeping. We are recording, so this video will be up on the website within the next few hours, hopefully. I will drop several links and resources in the chat throughout this session, so keep your eye on that. And please don't hesitate to submit any questions or comments you have throughout. We'll take a break every now and then to talk about any questions that come up. No doubt everybody on this call is great at diving into all the challenges that come with owning a small business, but sometimes that comes at the cost of our own personal well-being. Regardless of the environment in which we're operating, too many of us forget to take a step back and evaluate our own needs, both mentally and physically. So that's something that we want to talk about today. And here with us to walk through all that is Gina Campbell. Gina has been a psychotherapist in private practice for 15 years, and she specializes in mindfulness-based counseling, helping people get unstuck so they can lead full and meaningful lives. Gina's training in meditation and yoga, which enriches her approach as a holistic mental health provider. And today she has joined us to talk about deep self-care for the small business owner. So with that, I'll turn it over to Gina.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad that you're all here and taking time out from your day to dive into this topic. So just a little introduction about myself. I'm coming to you live from my office on Ingersoll Avenue. Like many of you, I work on my own. So I'm just a one-woman show doing all the things. So really feel like I'm in sort of common company with you in those struggles at times and in that experience that can sometimes be isolating. So it's so important for us to have the tools to take care of ourselves. And what I'm going to talk about today is going to be a little bit of a different take on self-care. It's really going to be kind of a self-care from the inside out approach. So when you're kind of preparing for today, I want you to think about just allowing yourself to have an experience. We've got this brief time together here in the middle of a Tuesday. And I really just encourage you to take this time. I'm going to be guiding us through a number of sort of visualizations, a number of guided meditations, so that we'll get a chance to practice a lot of the concepts that I'm talking about and really get a sense from the inside out of what it feels like to do some of the self-care skills that we'll go through. So with that, before I get started, I wanted to ask you just to kind of chime in on the chat. When I ask, what do you think of when you hear the word self-care? What just immediately pops into your mind? And Zach, if you'll just let me read those out to me. Okay, peace and quiet, yoga. I'm seeing some of these. Taking time for myself, time for me, sleeping, meditation. Yeah, okay, good. So bubble bath, I saw that one. I'm going to come back to that. Relaxing. Yeah. So interesting, right? Exercising. Yeah, good. So thank you. I just wanted to get a sense, of what you all do for self-care, but also what ideas you have about self-care. Because a lot of, there's a lot of sort of media about self-care nowadays. And so we get we have, ideas that are put forth by the media about what self-care is or what self-care should be. And we're going to challenge some of those today and really also go deeper with them, go deeper with like self-care beyond just maybe a bubble bath, right? Self-care beyond just a one-time event. So with that, let me go ahead and get started here. I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see. So I wonder if anyone feels like this in their mind. What the hell is that? Oh, it's just my mind. This is so often the experience of being human, but also the experience of being a business owner, right? Is that got so many thoughts going on at the same time. And a lot of times it is that experience that is really causing us a lot of suffering, because the fact is not all that scribble scrabble up there in our mind is something that is worth paying attention to or that we need to pay attention to. But we really do need the skills for what do we do with all this? You know, what do we do with all this sort of crazy racing mind? Um, Now, I'll take you through some exercises today that will give you a sense of how to deal with those thoughts. But going to the next slide, some of you guys might have seen this meme going around on Facebook. Corona coaster, the ups and downs of a pandemic. One day you're loving your bubble, doing workouts, baking banana bread, and going for long walks. And the next you're crying, drinking gin for breakfast, and missing people you don't even like. So this is the emotional side, right? So we've got the mental side of the kind of scrambly mind, and then we've got the emotional side. And I have to say, in my experience during this pandemic, and also in talking with so many of my clients every day throughout the past 4 months or so, this emotional up and down has really come through as a theme of what a lot of people are experiencing. And there being some like unpredictability to that, like you don't really know what you're going to feel on any given day. And that can be hard to deal with. That can especially be hard to deal with when you're a business owner and you need to be able to be productive, right? There's just some days that you need to be able to get stuff done. And if you're caught in all the thought stream and you're caught on the emotional roller coaster without the tools for what to do when that's happening, it really does begin to impact your productivity. But most of all, it impacts your well-being, and you can start to feel a little trapped by it. So we're going to look for some ways for some freedom out of that today. So self-care from the inside out, coming home to the present is one of the skills that we're going to work on. And within that is learning mindfulness of breath and body. And so that skill will be present in pretty much every exercise we do today. The other skill we're going to cover is seeing thoughts as thoughts, or, you know, kind of how to step outside of your mind and not be so at one with your thoughts. We're going to learn about recognizing aversion and avoidance, the tendency that we have to want to seek pleasure and avoid pain, or seek comfort and avoid what is uncomfortable. We're going to talk about the skill of allowing things to be as they already are, and also about the skill of self-compassion. What to do in relationship with yourself when there is difficulty and discomfort. And so a lot of what I'm focusing on today is that idea, what to do when things are hard. Because where we're at right now, in this moment we're in right now, it presents a lot of challenge. And a huge part of self-care, in my opinion, is, do you know what to do for yourself when things are hard? Because it's easy to take care of ourselves when things are going well. It's not that hard. It's when things get challenging, when things get bumpy, that it's more difficult to really take care of ourselves. So let's start with just a brief exercise. So here's where, oh, if I was in a room with you, you know, I'd be able to see you and connect with you, but we're going to do our best. So get comfortable in the chair that you're in the room that you're in, and I'm just going to walk you through a brief 3 to 5 minute meditation exercise. So go ahead and get situated, and we'll use this as a warm up for the meditations to come. So when you're ready, you can go ahead and either close your eyes or fix your eyes on a spot on the floor a few feet ahead of you, whichever feels more comfortable for you. And we're just going to take a few moments here to step outside of automatic pilot mode. You might have been rushing around before you got here today or doing other things. Mind is on other things. So just take a minute to arrive here in this space and feel the sensations of just sitting. Find your feet on the floor. Can even press your feet gently into the floor to get a sense of that groundedness. Feel your back against the chair that you're sitting in. And bring your head and your neck into alignment with each other so that your spine is directly over your hips, your shoulders are balanced over your hips, your ears are over your shoulders, and your skull is centered between your shoulders. And then just begin to ask yourself, what is my experience right now? What thoughts are present? What sensations am I having in my body? What feelings are here? And just notice without the need to alter or change them in any way. Just simply notice. Notice whatever is arriving in this moment so that you have a sense of what is going on right now. You have a sense of your body and space. And then to help you kind of ground into this moment, go ahead and take a couple of full deep breaths. Breathing in and breathing out. And once you've taken a couple of deep breaths, on the next breath, breathe in and then focus on making the exhale twice as long as the inhale. So if you're breathing in for a count of 1, 2, and then you're breathing out for 1, 2, 3, 4. And just do that a few times, making the exhale twice as long as the inhale. So this is called 1-2 breathing. And it's often used when people are feeling anxious to bring down heart rate, bring down blood pressure, and give your mind something to focus on. And then you can let go of the breath, allow the breath to return to normal. And notice what's going on in your mind and see if you can let go of the contents of your mind and bring your attention back to the sensation of breathing. Just giving your mind this one thing to do, breathing in and breathing out, one moment to the next as best you can. And now see if you can expand your awareness from your belly where the breathing is happening. See if you can become aware of your whole body. One whole breath, one whole body. So that you're feeling your body from the crown of your head to your feet. One whole body breathing. Now see if you can expand your attention even further outwards into your skin. And see if you can feel the air caressing your body. And expand your awareness further into the room and the space around you. And just hold all of this as best you can in wide, spacious awareness. Ready, you can gently open your eyes. Okay, so welcome back. So we'll practice this going away and welcoming back a couple more times in our time together, but hopefully you're noticing after that exercise a little bit of a shift. And you might, if you have something to write with where you are, just note to yourself, what just happened? What feels different? Without judging it, just noticing what was happening. So that is an exercise from a type of therapy called mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. It's often used to treat depression. I think Zach is going to put the link to that book in the chat. This is a great book for everyone, not just for people who have depression. It's a great book for working with your mind and your life and responding to life. And then the exercise that is the 3-minute breathing space that comes from that therapy, I put a link also where John Kabat-Zinn, who's a famous mindfulness writer, he has recorded the 3-minute breathing space on YouTube. So I put that there for you also so that you can have a look at those. So let's go on here to, this was the image for when you were breathing. I love that. Common misconceptions about self-care. So the first being self-care is to make bad thoughts, feelings, or sensations go away. Actually, people think, often that the same thing about mindfulness, that the purpose of mindfulness is relaxation or bliss or making uncomfortable feelings go away. It's actually not the case. The purpose of mindfulness is to be able to navigate all feeling, to be able to make space for all feeling and find a way through that, whether the feelings are good or bad, whether the thoughts are comfortable or uncomfortable. The second misconception that I find is pretty common is that, self-care is a one-time event. It's just something you do, it's you go for a run, you get a massage, you go see your therapist, you take a bath, and then that's self-care. And of course, we're really needing and looking for more from self-care than that, right? We're looking for what type of self-care is going to be lasting. Because while there's nothing wrong, of course, with any of those things I just mentioned, they're all great and they have their place. But a lot of times when we're doing them, what we're sort of subconsciously wanting is for the bad, uncomfortable thoughts or feelings to go away. And when we're doing that, then we're kind of getting in a little bit of a struggle with ourselves of trying to fight the feelings that we don't like, trying to be in a struggle with them rather than being able to make space for them because they are just simply a part of life. So to that end, there is another book that I would highly recommend to you. This is a book called The Happiness Trap. And it's by an Australian psychologist, Russ Harris. I didn't put these in the links I sent to Zach, but we will provide them for you later. Russ Harris also has several very helpful little cartoons on YouTube that illustrate some of the concepts that I'm talking about right now. One of those is called The Struggle Switch. It's a 3-minute video. I'd highly recommend watching that. It explains very well why struggling with negative feelings, anxiety or depression, or things not going the way we want them to go, it explains why that doesn't help. And in fact, sometimes hurts us a little more. So in The Happiness Trap, one of the things that Russ Harris talks about is how our brains are on a constant agenda to seek pleasure and avoid pain. And this is just because it's hardwired into us. This is kind of the ancient part of our brain that's concerned with survival. It's concerned with, what we need to do to have food the next day or that evening. It's concerned with getting away from the tiger that might be about to attack us. And so, of course, that very primitive instinct is about avoiding those things. But when we apply it to modern life, it doesn't work so well. Avoidance doesn't work so well. In fact, what happens is we start to try to grasp on to only the good feelings. And then when that doesn't work, because we've all probably tried, then we struggle, and we sometimes feel even worse because, oh my gosh, this isn't working. This is supposed to be working. I went to yoga and it was supposed to make me feel better. And now I'm out of yoga and it's not making me feel better. And then I'm mad at the world and I'm mad at yoga and, how it goes. We seek kind of these short-term fixes. The self-help industry, interestingly enough, is expected to be a $13 billion industry by 2022. And one of the things that is talked about in Russ Harris's book, The Happiness Trap, is how that entire industry is really about selling the idea of happiness. It's really about selling the idea that you should have positive emotions all the time. And if you don't, well, here's how you could achieve that. The problem that we have as therapists with that is that it's just not how life works. Life is full of painful, difficult times. It's full of painful, difficult emotions. And so we need effective ways of dealing with that. We don't just need methods that say, let's just get rid of what doesn't feel good. We need methods of being with what's hard. Right now during the pandemic, it's so obvious, some of these concepts now, right? Because something has happened that we didn't have any control over. And we see very clearly one of the big truths of life, which is that there is a lot that we can't necessarily control. So actually on that, I want to talk about that last bullet point, the second arrow. So this is a kind of a metaphor from mindfulness where the first arrow is the arrow that gets shot that we don't have any control over. It's the pandemic happening. It's someone we love dying. It's, something happening that's affecting our business that we couldn't have done anything about and we couldn't have foreseen. So this is the first arrow, and it causes pain and suffering. But the second arrow is the one we shoot ourselves with, which is by how we react to the first arrow. So if we're reacting to the first arrow in a way that's fighting it, like this shouldn't have happened, why did this happen, I must have done something wrong to make this happen, all of those kinds of thoughts only serve to make us suffer more. Right? Like we have a certain reactivity to bad things happening. And so one of the skills we're trying to cultivate for the long run for self-care that's going to be lasting is how can we not shoot the second arrow at ourselves? Even when things are hard, can we do better by ourselves? Can we take better care of ourselves? Treating ourselves like we would a good friend rather than beating ourselves up, right? Or making space for reality, the reality of what's happening rather than resisting it. And you can see I put a couple other bullet points there. One is about being careful not to confuse self-care with self-improvement. I think I talked some about that with the self-help industry, but also this term experiential avoidance, which is, fun term from psychology. It basically means I don't like the feeling I'm having and I need to get rid of it ASAP. And if I need to drink or do drugs or, shop too much or whatever I need to do to get rid of that feeling, I'm going to get rid of that feeling. And none of those things, like the avoidance strategies we have, sometimes it's, over exercising even. It's not like any of those things are inherently bad in and of themselves, but the problem is that they're short-term fixes. They're not a long-term solution to the problem of pain in life. So with that, I want to jump into another tool for you. So quick reminder before that, skills for being deep self-care are the skills for being present with difficult thoughts and feelings, knowing how to take care of yourself when things get hard, I love this quote from Viktor Frankl, who was in a concentration camp, lost most of his family, and became a psychiatrist afterwards. And his quote, "Between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. And in that space lies our power and our freedom." So that's after the first arrow, right? The first arrow is the stimulus, and we have a space there to consider, what are we going to do? What's going to make it easier? What's going to bring more freedom? All right. So we've got another lovely quote here, Shunryu Suzuki: "Leave your front door open and your back door open. Allow your thoughts to come and go. Just don't serve them tea." So this is a really important concept, and we're going to practice it when we practice an exercise called Leaves on the Stream. What this quote is really talking about is that we can't control thought. Thoughts and feelings come on their own, but we can begin to notice and name what the thoughts and feelings are. And by doing that, we get just a little bit of distance from them. And when we get a little bit of distance from them, it opens up the space for us to choose how to be in a difficult moment. Rather than just reacting, we then have the opportunity to consider, what is the most skillful response right now? So I would encourage you to practice when you notice thoughts are coming up, to practice this like quick little 2-step method. Noticing and naming. So number 1, I'm having the thought that this is a hard day. Something like that. Whatever's going on, I'm having the thought that this is a hard day. And then step 2, I'm noticing that I'm having the thought that this is a hard day. So with the first step, we're becoming aware that we're having a certain thought. With the second step, we're actually looking in on ourselves, noticing ourselves having that thought. And again, that's just like a little additional step outside of our own awareness, outside of our own mind and our own thought stream, so that then we have a little wiggle room and a little more space for how we want to react. So let's practice this leaves on the stream exercise. So here's another space where we can let go of the information we've just been taking in, and you can get comfortable in your chair and take a few deep breaths. Again, finding feet on the floor, arms and legs uncrossed, hands resting on your lap. And then when you're ready, letting your eyes gently close or fixing them on a point in front of you. And begin to take those gentle breaths like we did in the first exercise, breathing in and breathing out. And notice the sound and the feel of your own breath as you breathe in and out. And now I'd like you to imagine that you're standing by the bank of a gently flowing stream, watching the water flow. Imagine feeling the ground beneath you, the sounds of the water flowing past, and the way the stream looks as you watch it. Imagine that there are leaves from trees of all different shapes, sizes, and colors, and they're floating past on the stream, and you're just watching these float on the stream. This is all you need to do for the time being. Start to become aware of your thoughts, feelings, or sensations. Each time you notice a thought or a feeling or a sensation in your body, imagine placing it on a leaf and letting it float down the stream. Do this regardless of whether the thoughts, feelings, or sensations are positive or negative, pleasurable or painful. Even if they are the most wonderful thoughts, place them on a leaf and let them float by. If your thoughts stop, just watch the stream. Sooner or later, thoughts will start up again. Allow the stream to flow at its own rate. Notice any urges to speed up or slow down the stream, and let these urges be on leaves as well. Let the stream flow how it will. If you have thoughts, feelings, or sensations about doing this exercise, place these on leaves as well. If a leaf gets stuck or won't go away, let it hang around. For a little while, all you're doing is observing this experience. There's no need to force the leaf down the stream. If you find yourself getting caught up with a thought or feeling, such as boredom or impatience, simply acknowledge it. Say to yourself, here is a feeling of boredom, or here's a feeling of impatience. Then place those words on a leaf and let them float on by. You're just observing each experience and placing it on a leaf on the stream. It's normal and natural to lose track of this exercise, and it will keep happening. When you notice yourself losing track, bring yourself back to watching the leaves on the stream. Noticing the stream, placing any thoughts, feelings, or sensations on the leaves, and letting them gently float down the stream. Finally, allow the image of the stream to dissolve and begin to slowly bring your attention back to sitting in the chair in the room where you are. And now slowly and gently open your eyes and notice what you can see and what you can hear. Push your feet into the floor and have a stretch, noticing yourself stretching. And welcome back. So that was our second exercise, really aimed at the skill of seeing thoughts as thoughts and really learning to allow thoughts, feelings, and sensations to come in the front door and go out the back door without inviting them for tea. Okay, so good. Hope that was a good experience for you and you kind of noticed maybe a few things interesting about how your mind was working during that exercise. If you haven't done exercises like this before, they can be kind of novel feeling in the beginning, but each time you do them, you begin to get a sense of like, oh, that's it, that's how this works. And it can sort of get to the point where you can do them just on the fly, right? You can do leaves on the stream like in 30 seconds where you're like, I'm having a lot of thoughts. These really need to go on the leaves and they really need to just go down the stream, right? So it doesn't have to take as long as we're taking right now. So let's move on now to actually want to share another type of process with you. And this is actually a process that was developed by a number of meditation teachers together. Many years ago, they had a lot of people coming to them and asking, what do I do when feelings are really intense? What do I do when I'm just overwhelmed with an emotion and I just feel really stuck with that? And they decided to come up with a process for dealing with those moments. Now, this process has been elaborated on quite a bit, mostly by a psychologist and meditation teacher, Tara Brach. And I gave her website to you, Zach, to put in the chat. Tara Brach, she just does such a wonderful job of, like elaborating on what this process looks like. But she also has a podcast every week, and she was always doing it, but all through the pandemic, she's been doing this podcast. And usually at some point in the podcast, she does this process. And it can be very helpful. Sometimes when I am just going for a walk, I'll put one of her podcasts in and I'll listen to what she has to say, and I'll listen to her guide a meditation that's usually based on this RAIN process. And so we're going to try that today to just have an experience of kind of conjuring up a little bit of a difficult feeling and going through what we might do with that. Tara Brach also, you'll see on her website, she has a couple of books. The first one many years ago is called Radical Acceptance. Then she wrote another one around 2013 called True Refuge, and you'll find these on her website. I think she just also published a new one. I can't remember the title of that one. So let's look at RAIN. This is the acronym for the steps that you go through in this process. This process was designed to help people decondition the habitual ways they resist their experience. So, earlier I made mention of like kind of resisting reality. Like that's the really hard thing to not do right now, right? Like we're all kind of walking around finding ourselves resisting reality. Like, why does it have to be this way? Why can't this be over? And so this process was developed to kind of help get us out of just reacting that way to things that are difficult. And it kind of, helps us step out of that short-term avoidance, like let me just go have a cigarette and make this feeling go away, and gives us a little bit of a lasting way to approach difficulty. There are so many ways that we want to control what's going on around us, and we will see ourselves attempting to do what are called sort of emotional control strategies. Like not only do we want to control the life around us and what's happening, but we want to control how we feel inside. We want to avoid things that don't feel good. And so this process is really more about learning to open up to our experience and to be present with it. And I think of it as like riding it like a wave. The experience of the feeling comes and it crests and it goes. If we will allow it to go, many emotions, in one study they found many emotions will last about 20 minutes if we just allow them to take kind of that wave their natural course. So let's look at what the process is. The R is for recognize. That is just stopping in the midst of the difficulty and asking, how is it now? What is happening inside me right now? Just what is there? And then the A is for allow. So just letting thoughts, feelings, and sensations be as they are, and opening up to that wave of experience I was referring to. Another metaphor that's sometimes used to describe how to do that is, do you remember the Chinese finger traps, where if you try to pull your fingers apart, your fingers get stuck? So by resisting, you can't get your fingers out, you actually have to push in, you have to lean in, and then you can get your fingers out of the trap. That's a lot what allowing is about. It's just letting things be without fighting it. The I is for investigate. So caution there, it's not like an intellectual investigation. It's not trying to figure out like, why am I feeling this way? And what can I do to make it go away? Or analyzing it too much. It's really investigating, what does this feel like? How am I reacting to it? What am I believing right now? And always a really good place to go is, how am I experiencing this in my body? Where is this difficulty showing up in my body? And then the N is, sometimes it's said it stands for non-identification or nurture. So those are kind of two different concepts. Non-identification is a little bit what we were doing when we were practicing leaves on the stream. We were stepping outside of our experience. We were noticing and naming what was happening. That's non-identification. Nurture is really the self-compassion piece. It's bringing kindness and caring to difficult experiences, both those that are internal and external, and seeing ourselves as part of the whole of humanity, treating yourself like you would a good friend. So that's the end of the process. So right now, let's just go ahead. I'm going to put the lovely lotus flower back up for you. And I'm just going to guide you through a brief rain meditation. So go ahead and get comfortable in the way that you did for the other two exercises. And this time we're just going to take a minute to think about what is going on for you right now in your life, today or this week. What is something that's really present for you that maybe is a difficult situation or a difficult feeling? I'm just going to kind of bring that up a bit on purpose. We're going to invite it in, and we're going to allow some space for that. So sit comfortably, close your eyes or gaze at the spot on the floor, and take a few deep breaths. A nice deep in breath and a slow out breath. Deep in breath, slow out breath. Just feeling the sensations of the breath. And then you can let the breath resume its natural rhythm and just feel your body breathing. Rather than controlling your breath, just let your breath breathe you. And take some moments to scan your life. Notice where in your relationships with others or in your own behaviors you feel like you've turned on yourself in some way. You might be in a situation where you're in conflict with another person, you feel bad about yourself, or where you feel maybe you're judging yourself or down on yourself about your work, or maybe there's an addictive behavior. Maybe there's a feeling of worry or sadness. Perhaps there's a sense of something's wrong. What is that feeling that you have? And you might even think about, where is this feeling located in your body? And does it have a shape? Is it hard or soft? Is it transparent or opaque? Does it have a temperature? Is it hot or cold? Does it have a texture? Is it hard? Is it squishy? What is the nature of this feeling? And then recognize you might want to push that feeling away. And when you notice this impulse come up, instead say to yourself, this is me struggling against something. This is me being at war with myself and my experience. And instead, think to yourself, this is how it is right now. Just allow and make space for that and try to open up around it. Imagine that you could breathe into and around this feeling, as if by using your breath, you're creating space around the feeling. And see if you can just allow it to be there. Know that this feeling as part of being human. And now begin to investigate with curiosity and gentleness. What's this feeling like? What am I believing about myself or about other people or about life? Is it I should be different or I'm bad at this? What do these feelings feel like in your body? What is it like in your throat, in your chest, in your head? And now sense what this feeling most needs right now. And with your breath, bring care and attention to the not okay space. Ask, what do I need? What does this part of me need? And then begin to nurture, feel into what is hard, and experiment with sending kindness toward yourself and toward the difficult feeling or situation. What is it like to just bring a sense of kindness and gentleness? What is it like to care about your own suffering and nourish yourself with compassion? What would it mean to be a good friend to yourself in this moment around this feeling? And see if you can soften and loosen any gripping around the feeling. Again, breathing into it as if you can create space within and around it. And give it space to float around inside your body. And ask yourself, who am I when I'm not struggling with myself? Who am I when I'm not struggling against what I don't want to feel? What would it be like to act in my life as if nothing is wrong with me? And then slowly take a few deep breaths. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes and come back into the room. Welcome back. So those exercises, particularly this last one, it's a little more intense than the first two. So just give yourself a few minutes to kind of shake that off a little bit, and maybe jot down again, what was your experience there, and what was going on? We stayed with that feeling for a long time. There are times when a feeling is too intense to stay with it for that long. And in that case, you would just want to go to just the nurture part, just the self-compassion part, just being kind to yourself. You skip all the other steps and just go straight to that when things feel too intense. But when things are at, a moderate level, you can work with this process. And so you'll find this process on Tara Brach's website and in her books. If you want to practice with it again, it's really useful, a useful way for approaching difficulty. And so I do want to go ahead and wrap up here. I think I've got one more slide for you here. Hold on. Yep. So one thing I want you to think about going forward is, the whole purpose of creating more internal freedom by not struggling against the difficult emotions and sensations and thoughts that arise inside, the whole purpose of that is freedom. And the purpose of that type of freedom, like freeing yourself up from that struggle, is so that you can get in touch with what really matters to you and actually begin to take action in your life. So with these skills comes that freedom, the freedom to focus on who you want to be and what you want to be about in your lifetime. And so I'll leave you with a few questions to think about. How do you want to be as a person and a business owner amidst challenges? What do you want to stand for? Like, what do you want to be about? And when you get to the end of this challenging time that we're in and you're looking back, what do you want to be able to say about who you were and how you were and what you accomplished during this time? So I'd really encourage you to think about those questions, to go deep with that, and then to find a way to really translate that into action in your life. I mean, that's the point of the freedom, is so that we're not stopped from moving forward. We're not stopped from, we're not getting stuck, but we're unstuck and we're moving forward towards a rich, full, and meaningful life and business life. So on that note, I know we've got a little bit of time left, so I'm going to stop my screen share here and open up to if anyone has any questions or any final reflections or just stuff you want to type into the chat. We'll use the last few minutes to do that. Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate that. Thank you, Celeste.
This really has been great. Thank you.
I'm glad. It was it's strange to present to my camera and not be connecting with all of you, but maybe someday in the future we'll all be in a room together and we can actually connect.
No matter how many of these we do, it's a nice reminder that you can always learn more. We always learn something new.
Absolutely.
While we're waiting for any other potential questions, I just want to remind everyone that we've been putting out a ton of digital information over the last few months, which is great, but I want to recognize that not everybody learns in the same way, obviously. So if you're not getting the resources or help that you need from this series, from our current content, please make sure you reach out to anyone on our team. All of us are really excited to field any questions or issues that you bring to us.
Yeah, Tony, I see your question about, do I do virtual counseling? Yeah, right now that's all I do. So like many of you, my work has changed to where it takes place on video. I see pretty much 100% of my clients this way right now while we're in the pandemic. Yeah.
A reminder, I will send a follow-up email to all participants afterwards. That includes all of these resources, all the links, some contact info for Gina, in case you want to reach out and discuss anything further.
Wonderful. Would love to hear from you.
Okay. I want to say thanks again, Gina. This was fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
Completely new after that. We have a lot of new and exciting education programs rolling out over the next few months, so please stay tuned with our website and our social medias. We'll be having a lot more information on those. I think that's pretty much all I have. Gina, if you have any parting words.
No, I think that's it. Oh, there was one book I wanted to mention actually. When I was talking at the end about, kind of what do you want to be about? There's a wonderful book called Designing Your Life, put together, and I can't remember the author right now, but you'll find it if you look at it on Amazon, and Zach and I will send you a link. Designing Your Life has some great sort of content for reflecting on where things are headed for you in your personal and business life. All right, everyone. It's so nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Have a great day.